Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts and civic leaders to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happening in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. I've got a fantastic panel of guests today, but before I'd like to introduce them, I'd just like to say a big thanks to Hazelwood's accountants and business accountants and advisors who also make my coffee every week. Lovely, lovely people, very talented as well. Okay, don't forget, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. So who have we got on the show today? We've got Clare Vertigen, Managing Director of West Apprenticeship Company. She's also the chair of the Forrester Dean Economic Partnership, and I know she's very keen to talk about the A-level results today, so we'll be chatting to her about that. We've got Mark Gale, CEO of Gloucestershire Gateway Trust, and they've been involved in Gloucester Service Station for a number of years. And they're currently, there's a show on Channel 4, 8 o'clock every Monday evening of the Cotswold Farm Shop. And we'll be talking to Mark about that and his involvement there. We've got Chun, who has been the co-owner of the Mayflower Chinese restaurant for the 42 years. He's just decided to call it a day, and we'll find out why and what he's up to next. And finally, never last but least, we've got the Director of Business West, Ian Meany. He's the ex-editor of the Citizen and Echo, Western Daily Press. He's definitely not hanging up his curtails. He's hanging up his curtails. He's definitely not hanging up his shirt. Anyway, and it's great to see them all here today. Right,
good
okay.
Morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Let's have a look at the newspapers today then, courtesy of the BBC. Okay, we start off with the Metro. Parkinson, goodbye to the best. The Mirror, our greatest. The Daily Star, The King, tributes flood in for chat show legend. The Sun, Parky, the greatest, and so was Muhammad Ali. Great show that. The Eye, generation of young people in poor areas are left behind. The Guardian, thousands miss top grades as A-level results plummet. The Daily Telegraph, France stops fewer migrants despite £480 million aid. The Times, rule change lets anyone buy a COVID booster jab. The Daily Express, there'll never be another parking. And yes, Britain can afford tax cuts, says the Express. The Financial Times, Labour waters down pledges to strengthen workers' rights. And that's the roundup of today's papers. Okay, let's start with you, Ian. What have you picked out for us, sir?
Well, Parkinson to me is the story today. And there's something in the Times. Michael Henderson, who's a friend of his and a great writer. This seems to me to sum up Parkinson. He told him, I'm a reporter. I may be known best for appearing on TV and radio, but I was a journalist before any of that. And that's what I remain. And that to me is what the guy was all about. You know, he allowed people to talk. It wasn't him who was in charge of the show. It was his personalities, something over 2,000 of them. And I like the piece in the Sun today by Piers Morgan. Really good 2-page piece there, fantastic. And really, I suppose to me, the Telegraph have done in their supplement, their headline quite simply is the greatest interview of his age. And, you know, I totally agree with that. So the papers are full of great tributes. The Sun have got an 8-page supplement. And I think very sad, Dickie Bird, the former umpire, is in most of the papers saying that literally he said his goodbyes the day before. I thought he was very moving on radio and TV yesterday.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I think we all of an age, aren't we? Where we all sat there watching Parky. I remember when I was a kid in my pajamas being allowed to stay up late watching some of the shows and Muhammad Ali. And I watched back some of the interviews recently about Muhammad Ali and some of the stuff the guy came out with, because I was a child at the time. You didn't realize what an intelligent man he was, and some of the greatest actors and personalities that he managed to interview. There don't seem to be those people around anymore, unless there's so much media out there. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think it's such a sad loss, but I also agree. Someone like Muhammad Ali actually spoke so much truth, and often truth to power, which isn't always popular. And Parkinson let people have their voice, didn't he? And think that was part of his secret, really,
Yeah.
about how to get people to share their real life experiences.
Maybe I should watch a few more shows and learn some tricks. Back to you,
I
Ian.
think Mark, is one of his techniques. He was laser-like in his questions, but the big technique he had was to listen.
Yeah.
And that's when you bring out people.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And it's quite difficult because you're actually thinking of the next question sometimes. When I do my big interviews, I'm very fortunate. I get to meet some of the, top business people in the area. And sometimes you get immersed in what they're saying, you forget the next question. It's a very difficult job to do, especially nowadays on Zoom and everything else like this. Well, thanks ever so much for that, Ian. Claire, I'm going to go to you next. What have you picked out from us, please?
Well, something obviously very close to my heart, which is so this week obviously was A-level results. Next week is GCSE, which is even bigger for me because my son will get his results. The A-level results were on the front of quite a lot of the newspapers. The biggest thing around it is the fact that that they, after the this is the first time after the pandemic, and only in England they have started the staged approach of going back to how it was before the pandemic. So whereas last year they took into consideration the fact that these young people hadn't sat exams and hadn't done the GCSEs, but so when you look at it, so they actually thousands, it says, missed top marks at A-levels. There was a sharp fall in A's and A stars. 5,000 fewer in England gained 3 A stars than last year, and there was 67,000 fewer top grades. It was the first time that more than 1 in 10 were awarded an E or an unclassified, and 10% was a 10% increase since 2019, which is pre-COVID. What I feel sorry for them because they didn't sit the GCSEs. A lot of them chose their A-levels because the grades they got for their GCSEs had been given to them by the teachers, so they hadn't sat exams before. So I do feel really sorry for them. I think Gillian, Keegan, sorry, I was trying to think of the surname for the second. She's kind of like rubbed salt in a bit of the wound for some of the parents by saying no one will be interested in exam results in 10 years anyway. Actually, if you think about it, is anyone interested in our A-level exams and our GCSE exams? But at this point in their life, this is the most important thing for them. And hopefully it won't affect them getting on in future. But the universities knew they were doing this, and they've said that they took this all into consideration beforehand when they offered them, the entrance grades to get in, which is great. So hopefully they won't be. But the thing that I suppose stings quite a bit is the fact that it's only England that did it. So Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland graded more generously. So they retained the additional measures, recognising the fact that these students hadn't sat exams in GCSEs and hadn't had a real experience through COVID of the amount of teaching that they should have had. So in Ireland, 37.5% higher A's and A stars. Wales 34%, and England got 26.5%. So that's quite a drop. So time will tell, but yesterday, I spent the whole day, I've got a whole day Monday and Tuesday interviewing people that have just finished their A-levels. Yesterday, talking to them, there was a lot, there was quite a few that were disappointed in the grades they got. They just missed it. They got C's instead of B's. But, it's not the end of the world. I'm interviewing them. The grades they've got they're going forward for degree apprenticeships. They've got where they want to be at university, but they've just not got the grades that they were predicted to get. They were predicted to get A's and they got C's.
I totally agree. Very, very difficult. Thanks ever so much for that, Claire. I know we'll come back to you and speak more about apprenticeships and how it's going to affect those as what you do for your day job. Mark, what have you picked out, please, from the paper? I know you're interested in the grades as well.
Yeah, the education is really important from our perspective, and the Eyes picked out a story which follows on from this, which really highlights disparity in achievement for young people between poor and better off areas. The Sutton Trust, which is an educational charity, said at the end of the day that the results were symptomatic of a picture in Britain of growing disparity between the most and least well-off young people. And then the chair, Sir Peter Lampy, said at the end, comparing this year's university acceptances to pre-pandemic break in 2019, the gap between the most and least deprived peoples has widened. And I think, you know, it's a worrying thing. And we know from looking at the data in Gloucestershire and certainly in some of the communities that I'm involved with, you know, the gap does widen. And in fact, what our experience of the last 10 years has been that public sector investment hasn't made the changes that we would all want to happen. And so these results are really concerning from our perspective, because I think there will be hotspots in our communities, you know, where the level of achievement isn't what it could be. And a lot of it is to do with things like data poverty and digital divides and people's ability to access resources during COVID and the tail of that coming through. But some of that disparity was already there. And so it's a real concern. And I must say, you know, I'm never really 100% confident of the local education system, but I'm optimistic certainly in areas like Matson and Podsmead and Tuffley, the school trust there and the new partnerships with Greenshaw offer some hope for the way forward. So, you know, I think we have to all put our back in to try and make that work and try and get the opportunities to people and the resources to people that many are not getting at the moment.
Okay, no, really good points there, Mark. Thanks ever so much. Yeah, go on, Ian.
I just think this is fundamental. This is about levelling up. The government make a big issue of this, but this to me is probably the key point in levelling up. It isn't about infrastructure and buildings. This is at the very heart of everything. And what Mark's been doing for ages in places like Tuffley, Matson, whatever, is just where we need to be. But if you look at the stories in the papers this morning, it's very clear that there are areas that are really in trouble here. So the government must look at this. And Claire's right, it's no good Gillian Keegan just saying, oh, well, in 10 years, you know, exams won't matter. They will always matter. There's always going to be a yardstick. But to me, fundamentally, levelling up is to improve the conditions of everyone. And young people are the future. And this is absolutely key.
Totally agree there, Ian. Let's bring, sorry, I'm going to bring Chun in now. So Chun, who's been waiting ever so patiently. Hi there, Chun. Thanks ever so much for coming on board. I'm going to throw something to you, Chun, because obviously you were a business owner yourself. Looking at A-level results, how the hell are we supposed to judge, you know, or understand what grades people have? You know, if you're going to employ somebody, you won't know that there was a pandemic and they didn't do their A-levels and stuff, isn't it? Because you're going to be judging someone from A-levels a couple of years before.
I think within my industry, and certainly personally in my own restaurant, I never judge on the CV they give me. I sit down with them, I make them a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, offer them biscuits, and I see how big the smile they can give me. If they can give me a big smile, I can teach them everything. If I cannot get them to smile, there's no hope for me. In fact, I said to one young man, I said, I'd very much like you. This job's not for you, but you need to smile a bit more in your next interview, because that's very important, because your personality would come through if you smile a bit more. And that's always very much me in my restaurant, because I can teach them everything else. I remember saying to my daughter when she went through the GCSE and A-level, trying to calm her and trying not to be so stressful about it. It was very challenging. I remember those days. And then I had the nephews and the nieces all going through those stages. I think as a parent, as an uncle, you just got to do your best. And I explained to them, I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're going through because I've never been through it. I
Yes.
never did my A levels. Reluctantly, I did my GCSE, but certainly those things you just got to tackle it and bite the bullet. And explain to them the things I go through in business and the moments I go through and which way do I turn. And I share it with them, and I think it helped them a little bit. It's almost like I'm not the only person that's going through all this shit here. Oh, I'm sorry, going through all these moments. My uncle's doing the same, even at his age, in his stage in business.
Yes, no, without a shadow of a doubt. I've got to ask you though, Chun, what have you picked out from the papers though? So sorry, I've led you down a different path.
No, that's okay. It's the England football team, the women football team. I think they deserve more recognition than anything else. They're very professional, and the way they conduct themselves on and off the field, it's this for me. It's all thumbs up.
Did you watch
Amazing.
the games beforehand? Did you watch any of the other previous World Cups?
Yes, I have. Yes, and it was last year the Euro got me started because last year we closed Sundays and Mondays, the post-COVID times, and we were able to do a bit more as a family and loved it. And just shame I couldn't get any tickets to go to any of the games.
Yes, yeah, no, I've been watching the women's football as well. I've been following it over the last 8-12 years, whatever it is, and the football level has just gone up and up and up and up, and I actually enjoy it far more than the male game. Actually, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
But then that's just. Do you feel the same, Mark?
Yeah, no, I'm a season ticket holder. My whole family are at Cheltenham Town, and we get free entry to the Cheltenham women's games as well. And you know, they're at a third tier level nationally as well, same sort of level as the men's team. And I really enjoy watching the women's games. And I think a real quality of football. And just, you know, to add, you know, there's this other story going around South this morning about Serena Wiegman potentially becoming the England men's manager. And, you know, we've seen it at Forest Green, and I think, why not? You know, crikey, you know, we don't live in 50 years ago, we're living now, and everybody deserves an opportunity to do a job if they're good enough for it. And she certainly is good enough. I'd be delighted if she wanted to manage Cheltenham Town at some point in the future, but I think she's much above that.
Yeah. But thanks ever so much for that, Mark. Okay, we kind of wrapped up the paper sort of side of things because we've run out of time otherwise to cover our own individual business sectors. Ian, I'm going to go back over to you, try and get a feel of what it's like that out there at the moment, because obviously you meet an awful lot of people. You were in the forest recently as well. Can you tell us what's it like in the business community, your take on it?
Right. My take on it is recruitment is a big issue, massive issue. Getting the right people. Business West are involved with something called LSIPs, Local Skills Improvement Programs, here in Gloucestershire, in Bristol, and in Wiltshire. We've been working on this. It's a government agreement for the last year. And what is coming out, and it sounds quite bizarre, is something that we all probably know, that employers are telling us that basically they want young people who are work ready, who are literate, who can talk properly, as Chung has just said, who can interview well. Now, you think, well, isn't this really obvious? But that's what's coming out, and skills are a big issue. Now, I've, as you know, with Clare, campaigned for apprenticeships and young people for the last 20 odd years here. I'm not anti-university. In fact, both my daughters went to university, but I feel that apprenticeships, the right apprenticeship, probably degree apprenticeships particularly, are where a lot of young people need to go. I'm looking locally here, the University of Gloucestershire. You may not think the University of Gloucestershire is got a great reputation. The fact is, if you live in Gloucestershire and you like one of their courses and you can live at home, that's going to be of great benefit to a lot of families who could not possibly afford things. there are major issues, as Claire will tell you, in terms of university accommodation. I know this, there are people in Bristol are busing people to Newport in Wales, lots of stories like that. So recruitment is big. Local government, I'm involved as vice chair of the LEP at the moment in basically the integration of the local enterprise partnership into the county council. I don't have a problem with that. It's a government edict. The only problem I have is this, that we must have an independent political voice. We cannot be just controlled by politicians. That does not work. So, you know, that's an issue. But business is very tough. And infrastructure-wise, big projects are not going to be coming on board apart from those already agreed. And local councils, we've got too many local councils here, in my view, and they just don't have the money.
No, and
So
I think that's a great place to stop you there, unfortunately, Ian. They just don't have the money. It's as simple as that, really. Thanks ever so much for that really important take there as well. Claire, I'm going to go back over to you and what Ian was saying about skills, jobs, apprenticeships, those soft skills that it appears that Chun was alluding to as well. Tell us about SWAC and what you're doing at the moment.
I'm just going to follow on really from what Ian said. So, but with SWAC, yes, obviously we're supporting businesses to take on their apprentices, and we help them with the recruitment. And then the model that we have is a government approved so that we can employ them and place them and mentor them within the workplace. But recruitment is a struggle at the moment. We have been working with across the board actually in Gloucestershire, but also like the Western Training Provider Network. We brought together all the training providers and looked at the way that we advertise to the young people with the jobs, because they are different. The 16 to 20-year-olds coming through at the moment want to know what this apprenticeship is going to offer them, what the future is going to be, why should they work for that company, not that company. So, you do really need to think about, it's not just about putting the job description up there, this is what you're going to be doing, ... You're going to be paid this. They want to know what kind of company you are, what what your beliefs are, why they should join you and not someone else, which is totally different from than that I was when I was younger, when I was just very much like, I need a job, like, yes, this looks like a nice place to work kind of thing. But there's that, and then I do get involved this time of the year a lot with the interviewing side, because we're doing so many interviewing, and I love it and what Chun said was brilliant, because it shouldn't be just a list of questions that you ask them when you're interviewing them. You need to tease it out of them, especially if it's the younger ones. They've not worked before. And I sit there and I'll say, talking about teamwork, and they go, I don't know, I've not worked before. And I'll go, well, no, let's think about this. You've done things within, like at school, whether that's an assignment or whether you've done sports, like how did you work together? like what kind of role did you play? And all of a sudden they start to realize that there's lots of these transferable skills that are really important. And then you start to bring out things in them and say to them, so what makes you really happy? What makes you go home at the end of the day and feel really motivated? And those are the kind of things that bring out the individual and, and make them smile and make you think, actually, I can see this, or I can say to them, I don't think this job is for you, but this job is for you. I wanted to mention the University of Gloucestershire, because they do deliver apprenticeships, and I've been working with them quite a bit recently, and they've I think it's really good the way they work with employers. So they do their management degree apprenticeship, but they've been working in the hospitality sector and realised that if they made it bespoke, they could make a hospitality management degree apprenticeship, which is, so they've really tweaked it. So, they've got vacancies at the moment in London with Red Carnation, the Grosvenor, Dorchester, Park Plaza, so some really, really good degree apprenticeships with there for young people, instead of going to university, go there, he pays a really good wage, everything's paid for. So it is, I think it's a really good example of the University of Gloucestershire thinking it's not just about degrees in the old way. There is a new way of doing it, and how we can make it better. Because you could have gone to university and done it, or you could go and work in the real world and get real world industry and still get it, like real world experience.
I think that's a great place to stop you there, Claire. No, thanks ever so much for that intake as well about the uni. And they are doing some amazing work. You are right there.
Yeah,
you as well, what you've done with SWAC, brilliant over the years. Mark, let's go back over to you, please. Obviously, can you just give us a very, very quick overview of the Gloucestershire Gateway Trust, what it is, and then about your involvement with Gloucester Service Station and this television programme that's going on? But you've only got 4 minutes.
Okay, well, just to say, I mean, Gloucester Gateway Trust is a community development charity. We're focused in particularly in the areas around Robbinswood Hill, so Matson, Robbinswood, White City, Podsmead. We also invest in communities slightly wider than that, including Stonehouse to a degree, but those are our main focused areas, and we try and help and support local people to get the things that they want in their local neighbourhoods and to take the decisions and opportunities that will help make change happen for them. And Gloucester Services came from discussions of local residents in Matson 20 years ago as an example of a way of trying to get sustainable change in the community. And jobs were always seen as good jobs, were always seen as key to that, as well as investment in community partners. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years. Gloucester Gateway Trust set up to help make that happen. Lots of people have been with us on the journey, as yourself and Ian and others have been. And so now we have this 6-part series. And interestingly, the first program on Channel 4 a couple of weeks back had also, as well as reflecting on Gloucestershire and all the brilliant producers like Chester's Ladies and Winchester Barnyards and things like that, also featured our Bridging the Gap course, which is a 3-day pre-employment course, which very much picks up on what Chun and others have said about, getting people to build their confidence. And I think if you can get people to smile and want to work and to value that opportunity, then often you can help people get the right skills and the right attributes to do that. And so the 3-day course that we do with Gloucester Services was featured in the programme, the first one. And actually, I think we got the best viewing figures on Channel 4 that night for the programme. So it's gone really well. I think it's a great platform for Gloucestershire. It's obviously a good platform for Gloucester Services, and we're delighted every time someone comes and spends a few pennies there, because that goes back in a big proportion back into our local communities.
And you get £3, you get 3p for every pound spent.
Up to 3p, yeah.
That's right, which is brilliant. I just want to say I did go and buy the Perry after watching that programme, by the way, which I gave it to some friends down in Dorset. Thanks ever so much for that, Mark. I'm kind of running out of time. Chun, let's go to you, please. Obviously, you've been the co-owner of the Mayflower. You're well known. You've been in the community. You've helped charities, done everything else. Why have you decided to call it a day now after 42 years, my friend?
Thank you for that question, Mark. It was very much an opportunity came, and I waited up and I said to my brother and my sister, I think we should take it, because this sort of opportunity doesn't come around that often, especially in the hospitality. There are a lot of empty hotel and cafe premises because they haven't got a good foundation. We've got a good foundation, hence the people are paying good money for the name and the location.
Oh, so the business is going to stay the same? It's still going to be the Mayflower?
Yes, they bought the name off us, and there's going to be an Asian themed restaurant.
Right. Okay. I didn't realise that. And what are you going to do next, Chun? Because you've been behind that counter, you've been serving everybody all these years.
I'm not at the moment enjoying so much retirement life. I mean, as you can see, the light bulb above me is not working, but I quite like it because it shows less grey hair. So I'm not gonna change the light bulb. But certainly going back to hospitality, we employers has a huge responsibility. When new people start, we should shadow them, we should nurture them, give them advice. Don't shout at them just because they put the wrong teaspoon on the side of the coffee cup or whatever. No, we need to be gentle. treat them as your sons and daughters. In that way, they will work harder and better for you. I've had at least 20 young people working for me. When I say young people, around 17, they all left happy. They've all left gone on bigger and better things. On my recent birthday, all of them was invited back because I said, look, once you become a Mayflower family, you will forever remain a Mayflower family, because that is that bond we've built up over the years. Because looking after other people's children is not easy.
No, without a shadow of a doubt. So what are you going to do next now, Chun? What, you know, you don't want to hang up the apron, like I said.
No,
are you going to do consultancy work? Are you, looking to get back into hospitality?
Job centre is easy access now. Boots Corners removed. You just go on the other side of the pavement and keep walking, and you'll find a job centre in Cheltenham.
But I mean, someone of all your experience, though, would you like to work, say, with the university, with the colleges, or?
I want to say I'm not qualified to work in that sort of capacity, but certainly I think my experience in hospitality, I got something to give, to contribute. I remember teaching a young lad how to change ashtrays in the late 80s and early 90s. He said, you take just one over. No, you take 3 clean ashtrays over, you put the dirty one on the bottom, you put the fresh one on the top, and you're on your way back. If you see any dirty ashtrays, you change again. But of course, those things don't apply now, but it's very much when you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea in restaurants and cafes, next time, look at where they place the spoon.
Okay, and where should the spoon be placed?
I always say to my team, always assume they're right-handers.
Right.
Unless you know they're left-handers. Always put it on the right side, same size to cup handle. This sort of things is so little, probably doesn't mean a lot, but it matters to me.
Well, I think it does matter. It does matter, and the details matter. That's the most important thing of all. Thanks ever so much for that, Chung. Great insight. Right, okay, we're going to quickly wrap up what we picked out from this week's Punchline. I am massively over time, so unfortunately I'm going to keep it tight. Ian, what have you picked out from this week?
Quick one. Yesterday, the Imperial Hotel in Stroud, great building. Guy called Simon Berg saw the Sunday Times story saying this is a great place to live. A couple of years ago, came up, bought it, and it's opening soon. That's fantastic.
Drummer from Laserlight, isn't he, as well?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Claire, what have you picked out from this week's Punch?
Forest of Dean Council appoint builders to finally do the new leisure centre in Colford at 5 acres, which is great news for everybody in my community. However, they chose somebody who wasn't local.
Shocking. Birmingham-based business. Why? Mark, what have you picked out from this week's Punchline, please, sir?
Yeah, the good story on Tuesday about availability of housing for single people and disabled people in Gloucester, and the lack of it really, and the affordability. And I think, the housing crisis is a real issue in the city. And, we've seen the regeneration in Matcham get paused, and Hogsmeade's in the balance, and it's just not enough affordable and social housing in the city. No,
without a shadow of a doubt. No, thanks for that, Mark. Great story that I felt as well. Chun, what have you picked out from this week's Punchline, please, to wrap up the show?
Many things, but all I can say is, come on, England, on Sunday.
Yay!
My story of the week has to be the Imperial Hotel as well, or the Stroud Hotel. It's about regeneration. It's about bringing that, a very tired building back into life. It is part of the gateway into Stroud itself, and for too long it's been laid derelict. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this week. I'd just like to thank my fantastic panel for this week. I'd like to thank our wonderful sponsors, accountants, business advisors, Hazelwoods, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. Don't forget, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. And please remember, it's all in the Punchline. Bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.